I saw someone post a 350 wheel horsepower dyno chart on a Mustang dyno with your Golf R Stage 191 and another run 300 wheel horsepower on your in-house Mustang dyno. Why is there such a variance? Golf R Stage 1.
Yep.
We rate 295.
Yeah, that's a tough one to answer because dynos, they're going to vary depending on how it's calibrated, the conditions at the time, how much airflow it's got, when it was done.
Different car.
Likely a different car. So
everything's different except the calibration.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. So would you expect everything to be the same if everything was different except one thing? That's probably a bigger variation than I would expect to see, but it's possible that car. I mean, we were plagued by the fact that our in-house AJ TTRS car made
he's like the happiest AJ.
It made 50 more wheel at about this power level than any other car we had tested. So all our initial advertised power numbers, none of our customers could even get close to, even though the car actually made that power.
Yep.
So sometimes you see one car is way healthier than another, and then there's all the other variables: the day, the temperature, the air density, the tires, the air pressure in the tires. Some people really don't believe that tires can make a difference on a dyno, but we know that it does. It's a trick that we used to use in dyno competitions.
The interface to the dyno.
Yeah, it's the thing that absorbs energy when you're driving down the road. It also affects the energy that's transferred to the dyno roller as well. So, I mean, if that car is anywhere near here, I'd invite them to come here and we can possibly consider checking it out.
It was in it.
Yeah.
It was.
It's just so hard because so many different dynos run different.
Well,
if it was at World
Racing,
World Racing's dyno
really
it was a Mustang, but we found it was very happy.
Well, we had the same issue with our S3. We did our R460. We did a magazine competition down there and we ran in the whole world. I mean, we made a great number on that dyno.
It was about 50 wheel up from.
And we couldn't get anywhere close to that, but we put the number out there because it was in the magazine. Yeah, we didn't put out there; the magazine did, and of course we referenced to it because it's out there. But yeah. So, and I'm not saying any. I'm just saying there is many documented cases, or the reality is many shops inflate numbers. Now, I'm not saying this is what happened. I don't know where this person went, and I'm not saying World Racing's purposefully doing that, but their dyno does read really high. But and I mean, frankly, I would suggest World Racing should have fixed it years ago, but they haven't. But here's the reality: is you have a customer walk into your shop, they put their dyno on the car, and you
car on the dyno.
You put the car on the dyno, and you run it, and you hand them two charts. One says 300 wheel, one says 350 wheel. Which charts do you think is going to make the customer happier?
Yeah.
That's
a really hard.
That happens a lot, and it's kind of a vicious cycle of it's dishonest, but at the same time, it's people love to think that their car makes more power than
they like the bigger numbers, and it's really hard to convince otherwise that a lower number, even with the exact same car, the exact same power, the exact same everything, a lower number on a different dyno, they're going to blame the dyno.
It's kind of like if you go to the doctor and you're actually 5'7" and they tell you you're 5'9". You're going to be like, yes, I knew it was taller. So, anyways,
but yeah, I mean,
it's hard to say.
Our dyno, we went through this when we first set it up. The Mustang, we had engineers from Mustang come out, and when we were initially getting it calibrated, we've validated it against a pile of stock cars, electric cars. It's been tested against other dynos in our area and the stuff at SEMA. That SEMA uses for
carb testing,
for carb testing and power validation,
which is automotive manufacturer grade calibrated.
Yeah. And we've matched up, within margin of error against all those. So we feel like what the numbers we're putting out are you're not going to hit anything lower because it's. I mean, I would say no one would fudge things lower generally, but
I would say not only do we feel, we know.
Yeah, exactly. There's beyond any other method of testing that's available.
Yeah,
we
have no doubt that our dynos.
We're happy with where it's at.
But keep in mind, different car, different day, different
like
conditions.
you said, everything is different except one thing. So,
And there's this kind of idea that a dyno reads a horsepower, and so all the dynos should read the same exact. That's not true. No two dynos read the same exact power.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's just not a thing. There is no way to calibrate all the dynos to each other. What a dyno is there's a load sensor that the engine's torque compresses the sensor. That sensor has to be calibrated, and a certain amount of compression is 1 horsepower.
Well, it's that plus the mathematical calculations for the inertial, right? Because you're spinning up the rollers and the mass as well, which some are inertial only, some are inertial plus load cell, some are very heavily load cell with very light inertia. So there's all kinds of different ways that this could be.
But the problem is a dyno. There's no such thing as a dyno that reads 1 horsepower or 1 torque. That's not a thing. There's all these sensors and components and software and that all calculate what a horsepower is. And if there's any difference, if one calculation is 20% off from the other, you start getting stuff like this. And it's just a couple of keystrokes away from changing the calculation. And some shops dishonestly modify it. We've worked very hard to make it accurate, even to the point of disappointing customers. And they're like, "Oh,
It's been really, it's always a struggle.
This is the actual power."
People want to see these big numbers, but we don't have our numbers are accurate to every test we've been able to throw at it. So, it's tough. And then you've got other things like, atmospheric compensation and normalizations that try to get applied sometimes depending on given altitudes, and it can throw things way out of whack.
That's a problem with altitude, where the SAE corrections for altitude they're just way off, and so you see a lot of ridiculously big horsepower numbers coming off of dynos and at elevation.
Yeah, if you've got a turbocharged car,
5,000, 8,000 feet, the numbers on the dyno, if they use the corrections, they're just flat on. They're inflated 20% at least, and we've seen that firsthand. We've dynoed a race car in our dyno. At one point, we went to Salt Lake City. We did it once. What was the other place?
Well, we did the Salt Flats one. We did.
And at
we
Pikes Peak.
Yeah, we did the Pikes Peak. The A4.
I dynoed the A4 at both places. We did ADTQ in Salt Lake City.
ADTQ was in Salt Lake.
And then I dynoed the time attack car in what's the city? Colorado Springs. In Colorado Springs, there was a dyno shop, and the numbers that were coming off the time attack A4 at it was ridiculous. They weren't right. So I turned off SAE corrections, and they were maybe a little bit off from what they should. Maybe they were a little low, but they were much more accurate. So.
Well, it should be lower. I mean, it's your efficiency's down. Your pressure differentials are all higher for
on a turbo motor, the corrections kind of go out the window.
Yeah, you pick up a lot of it with the turbo usually, unless you're at the end.
If the turbo can't produce as much boost, then you're making less power. Like there's no point in correcting for that. Less boost equals less power. Now, if the turbo is being controlled with a closed loop boost control system, then
and it can hit it with a relatively similar amount of efficiency.
The turbo can push the boost control can push the turbo harder. It will spin faster to achieve that higher boost target, but you're still going to make the power. So I think those SA corrections kind of make sense on an NA motor. They work much better for NA motors, but they're absolutely for turbo motors. All right. I don't know. I mean, go around and look at any of the tuning shops or companies that are at elevation. Look at their numbers. You'll see what we're talking about.
Well, and that again, it depends on how they're reporting those numbers. If they're using the corrected numbers, or